Welcome back to Boom and Bust. My conversation continues with Thomas Caldwell. He is the chairman of Caldwell Securities Ltd. In Toronto. Tom, we wanted to talk a little bit about what really the conversation should be in Canada. It shouldn't just be about Trump, 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 or tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. Can you expand on that a little bit? What are we missing here?
Well, first off, I consider Trump a wake-up call for Canada. We've been going down the wrong road for a long time. We're seeing mass emigration of some of our brightest young people to the United States. They don't see a future in Canada. We've had our history debased by governments in this country. We don't believe in ourselves anymore, and young people don't see a future here. A lot of people have immigrated into Canada are now leaving because their kids want to live in Italy or Germany and move back again. We're losing really good people, and that's a government. This is a big problem. Frankly, I don't want to hear our government's still whining about Trump. Trump is more of a symptom than a problem. The problem is us. We need to have leadership that can inspire with a vision and realistic policies to do something about it, and not these idiotic things of let's have a high-speed train to Quebec City for a $4 billion feasibility study. What we need to do is really make it easier for people to realize their greatest potential within Canada, to be inspired by Canada. We have so much in the way of resources. We'd be the envy of anybody in the world. And we really have to look in terms of what are we doing in insane levels of taxation, which are getting higher and higher because the pot is getting smaller and smaller. And taxation they got to deal with. Regulation at all, securities regulation, destroying capital markets, regulations interprovincially. What are we doing to build a better country? Try to envision all of us one day facing God, and he's saying, what did you do with that great country I gave you people? What did you do with it? Did you whine and snivel or carve it up and say, oh, I might treat it unfairly, or use the prosperity to piece off special interest groups just to buy votes to keep you in power? We have a country that can be incredible. I said, look at Canada. Think of Canada as in the 1950s, when the generation ahead of me lived through a depression, fought a world war, built all the infrastructure, the highways, the airports, and passed it on to my generation of almost debt-free. And then we had the first Trudeau era where we just started spending money on fuzzy feel-goods for ourselves. And we've come out of that. Now we can bite back into it again. Inspire. We need a different leadership. And I don't want to hear our leaders, either side, either party, taking pot shots at each other by telling us how flawed the other person are. You're flawed because you're in politics. That's the kind of people. And we're all flawed. Get over it. I want to hear what your policies are. What are your policies? And don't spend your time shooting at each other, because that's just getting tedious at this point in time.
No, I hear
So
you.
policies, inspiration, and Canadians want a goal. They want leaders. And maybe my hope is leaders tend to emerge when they're needed. And I don't know which of the two candidates would fit that role. But remember, Churchill was considered a drunk, flip-flopping on his allegiances, self-promotive and self-aggrandizer, but he emerged as the leader at the time that was needed in the free world. So maybe something like that will happen. But we need better leadership leading a country. Never mind about Trump. I don't even hear about Trump. Trump is a caricature, for God's sake. And he will come and he will go.
Now, listen here. It's music to my ears to hear you say that for sure. I agree with you. Let's talk about Mark Carney. He is the new prime minister. He has said that he wants to keep our tariffs on until the U.S., quote, shows us respect, end quote. First of all, have you ever met Mark Carney?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what was the circumstance, and what did you think?
Well, we were having lunch together at a group. I can't remember, it was at the board. We happened to be sitting next to each other. Had a very pleasant conversation. He's just remember, you don't work your way up in the Bank of Canada or the Bank of England or in the government by being dynamic, by being a visionary, aggressive. You work your way up by getting along, playing along. I read his book. I find it kind of scary because he's back into this climate change stuff and all the politically popular notions of the day. We need something bigger than better than that. So I'd be interested to see how he fares in the political thrust. I don't know that we're going to have a quick election because they want to distance themselves from this car accident, which was this past government. So they might leave it a little while. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
It won't be next week because he's off to Europe. So we know that much now.
Oh, we can't do it then.
No, we can't do it then. Exactly. Tom, we're going to take another brief break. We'll continue on this topic, however, after these messages.